We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America. That's systemic racism that has plagued our nation for far, far too long. I said that over the course of the past year that the blinders have been taken off the nation, the American people. What many Americans didn't see or had simply refused to see couldn't be ignored any longer. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people around all over the world. It was the knee on the neck of justice, and it wouldn't be forgotten. And it's not white Americans' fault, but just a fact.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Good evening on the West Coast. Good afternoon on the West Coast. Good afternoon in the mountains. Good afternoon in the Central. Good afternoon on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Reparations Perspective, bringing you those ADOC's hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering. And today, family, I've got a fire show for you. I'm telling you, this is my church family. This is my great example of how you can get older without aging. She is 100 years old this month, and I am super excited to have her here as a guest. She is here to give her migration story here to California, some of the trials she experienced in her adulthood and trying to transition to provide for her family, some of the things that her parents endured. And it's just rich that she is 100 years old and still in her right frame of mind. And I'm super excited that she agreed to be my guest. This is for the California Reparations Task Force. We need your migration stories. No matter how many generations you've been here, we need them, we need them, we need them. So please, you can write them. You can email me if you want to come on and share at therepperspect@gmail.com. I thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Without further ado, let me get her on the phone right now. This technology is not something she's into. So I'm going to bring her on the phone right now. She's waiting in the wings to talk with us. Let me bring her on. This is Miss Jones. Okay. Hold 1 second. My church family member. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Miss Jones, Miss Barbara. How are you, family?
I'm getting along very, very well, thank you, and trust the rest of you are doing likewise.
Thank you so much. Yes, we are. We're just super excited. I want to start by thanking you so very much for your time in helping the reparationist movement to make the case for reparations here in California. We young people can't thank you enough for just being willing to share your stories, because the Newsom's task force needs your story. We've got hundreds of stories pouring in. They've been super rich to set the stage for what the proposals to the governor will be, so that the young people can turn things around wherein their social justice and economic inclusion are concerned. So we are so thrilled to have you as a guest. I want to ask you before I get going, did I miss your actual birthday? I know this is your birth month. Did I miss the day, or has it not come yet?
It has not come. It will arrive this coming Thursday.
Oh, praise the Lord. I didn't miss it, because I'm very accustomed to making sure I have it on my calendar, because it is such a momentous occasion. You being one of our elders still, I was just telling them while I was introing the show, how you are my great example at church on how you can get older without aging. And I am so thankful to you for your great example. And I don't even know if you understand the breadth and depth of how you're impacting us at Upchurch with your beauty and your grace and your resilience, and how you just don't look anything close to your age. We're so blessed to have you. I know that I personally I pattern everything I do after being able to see it done through you first and foremost. So thank you for being such a great example. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I am honored to hear those momentous words.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I promised you I wouldn't detain you, but we had a very hearty discussion yesterday about your migration story here. And I know you pretty much grew up here in Pasadena, and I wanted to just have you share what that was like. Like, we talked about your parents and what they did professionally. If you could share what they did professionally and some of the challenges they went through, you know, breaking Blackness, specifically descendants of U.S. chattel slavery, into California. What was some of the things that they underwent in terms of any discrimination that you can recall that they may have had to undergo?
Do you mean immediate family or family members?
Whomever you'd like to talk about. I know that we talked about what your father did professionally, what your mother did professionally.
Yes.
And so anything that you can recall about their challenges trying to procure work. We talked about you and your work experience. So whatever part of that you'd like to share, we'd be so happy to learn more about it, because the more things change, the more they stay the same. And sadly, not much has changed. I think it's kind of gotten worse for our generation, because immigration is pretty much taken over here in California and has driven us out. So whatever you can share, because I want the audience to understand that as beautiful as California is, it's not without its share of racism and making things tough and hard for us to excel out here. So whichever story you'd like to share, we're waiting with bated breath to hear from you.
Okay, the reason why I was asking is that my immediate family, I think I told you my father died in 1930, I think it was. And then, so therefore, naturally, he wasn't part of the remaining of the family members, meaning my mother. I have two sisters, one older and one younger, so I was in between. And they are deceased. My mom and dad did not have any sons, so there were just the three of us. But the reason why I was saying it in that manner was other members of my extended family were more involved in the people, meaning government and, society, etc. That's the reason why I was asking, if you wanted about my immediate family, because they weren't out and about like other members of my extended family.
Mm-hmm. I see. Well, like I said,
so would you prefer me to talk about more my extended family?
Was your extended family here in California? Because that's really the highlight of the segment, is to point out. How about we just start with you? I remember you sharing with me yesterday about how challenging it was for you to even get work, even though you had a couple of years of college under your belt, how they would discriminate against you when it came to interviews, and even when you went to apply for an operator position where you could not be seen. When the woman realized you were Black, she would not give you an opportunity. Could you share about some of those challenges with procuring even jobs back then? Because it's some of the same things that we're going through right now.
Okay, well, let's see. I'm trying to think. naturally, I didn't work when I was in Topeka, Kansas. Well, I'll start with my family. And my mother was one of four children, sister and two brothers. And from there on, some of the family, didn't have extended family. And so therefore, not too many stories can be told, but I'll just talk off the top of my head.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
might sound like I'm rambling because some of the other members of my family, as I just said, were more involved and out and about. My one of my mother's brothers, whose name was William T. McKnight, helped and was associated with. Now I'm trying to remember the other. He was an attorney, by the way, but they were involved in the Topeka, Kansas, very beginning of the famous education case called Brown versus Topeka, Kansas.
Wow.
And he was one of the original attorneys. And, I'm so sorry, I can't think of the other attorney's name. And then that uncle, William T., in I don't know how extended, but he worked whatever capacity with Thurgood Marshall,
Wow.
the first United States justice.
Yes.
So that, is part of a connection with my family because it's more exciting than mine.
Wow,
And,
that is truly
so I
exciting.
do know about that. And then my aunt, his sister and my mother's sister, left Topeka, Kansas, I believe it was in 1939, and moved to Pasadena after one of the brothers had discovered California was such a terrific state. And so she moved to Pasadena. And after leaving Topeka, Kansas, she, at that time, her career was a school teacher there. But when she came to Pasadena and wanted to get into education again, the doors were closed to people of color. So she managed to get a job in some office, and her immediate purpose was to start taking care of breaking the color barrier, which she did.
Wow.
And so she ended up, being able to, at least for, black women, she opened up the doors of employment to black women in Pasadena. She
Wow.
died in 99 at the age of 104.
Wow.
I was very interested in helping others and was part of Pasadena's NAACP chapter and for I think almost 20 years, and naturally before her death, I don't know how many years prior to her transition, but she was honored with being whatever procedure that they used with the NAACP to make her Pasadena's emeritus of the NAACP chapter.
Wow.
So, and she did break the color line, and the street that she and my uncle lived on, they were green zones. They loved to work in the yard and have the most beautiful yard with flowers and shrubs and trees and all of that. And they ended up within their one block, encouraging their neighbors to do likewise. And over the years, they would have that block opening for others to come and walk through the block and meet the people who lived there and enjoy the beauty of that one block. Even though, it was nice around the area, but, and then Pasadena honored them by, telling the citizens of Pasadena about this one block. So she managed to do that. And all races and what have you naturally would come and park and mosey through that one block and enjoy the neighbors that live there. I do remember in some of my aunt's memorabilia that she had a picture of her being introduced to Bishop Tutu.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know anything about, the gathering, but this was a picture in her, paraphernalia that she met him. And, let's see. I'm trying to think of what else might be outstanding in Pasadena. Oh, she did end up also during her employment and work. I don't know whether very many people, well, since this is going farther than the LA area, she ended up also working at the Golden State Insurance Company, which was founded years and years ago. One of the first black insurance companies in Los Angeles. And also, I'm wondering again, one of her uncles and my mother's uncle, and I believe he was the original uncle that came to Pasadena. And his name is Oscar Over, and he was a member of the, at least I don't want to say Rough Riders, but one of the riders in World War I area. And they were the troops that preceded Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders during that area when they charged San Juan Hill in Cuba. So that's where he met soldiers and an ex-slave named Allensworth.
Wow.
And they became best friends. And also, Colonel Allensworth was minister. And Teddy Roosevelt bestowed the title of Colonel upon Colonel Allensworth because of his troops being such outstanding servicemen in the First World War. And so Colonel Allensworth he was an ex-slave also. He taught himself to read and write because naturally the little black kids who were with the families of slave owners, weren't allowed to learn anything. But I understand that one of Colonel Allensworth's master's son. They would sneak together, and the slave master's son and my Uncle Oscar's friends would do a little studying. So that added to Colonel Allensworth learning how to read and write. And so the after that, and the war ended, and naturally the soldiers dispersed, and my uncle came out here. They decided with some others, and also Colonel Allensworth, that they wanted to found a township for blacks only, so that they could govern themselves.
Yes.
Which they did. And I believe it was during Ronald Reagan's, one of his administrations in California, I believe it was his first. He signed about 600 plus acres to Colonel Allensworth and the black people that wanted to do this town. And it's still in existence. It's about half an hour drive from Bakersfield, California.
And what's the name of it again?
Allensworth.
Wow, I've heard of it.
Park. Allensworth State Historic Park.
Wow.
And if anyone in California is near, they're going to have an event this coming October 9, I think, on a Saturday. And, it's open to the public, whoever wants to come up. So they're still in existence, and they're still struggling to keep it surviving because so many of the pioneers have deceased. And at that time, they founded the town. It was in 1908, and it was self-contained. Most of the pioneers that moved there were educators. So they had professors, nurses, doctors, and by self-containing the town, they had their own grocery store, barber shop, opened up a post office, and one year, I forget exactly which year, they did honor Colonel Allensworth and did a postage, United States Post stamp for him. And let's see, there's a train track that's still being used from Southern California to Northern California that now mostly for freight trains, but the train would stop going up and down California area 7 times per day. And they would bring supplies into the ones that lived in Allensworth and then take out what Allensworth produced. Because my grand uncle was the one who founded the area, and then he in turn tested the soil.
Yes.
What they could grow, and they found out, what they could grow because the soil was very arid, and then they also had let me see, what do you call it? A spring that geyser spring that the water, would shoot up, and so it was all this natural water, and they were able to go into farming. So sometimes at the stops when the train would come, they would, put what they had grown on the trains, and then they would take them out, and sell them in other parts of California. So they were, very self-contained, and naturally they had their cattle and horses and everything. So, and then in 1918, they appointed or elected my grand uncle to be the first black justice of the peace state of California, and he was elected 2 terms. So from 1918 to 1922. No, pardon me, 1914 to 1922. He was the first black justice of the peace, and also they did elect another man. I'm sorry, I don't know his name, for the same period of time as constable. So they were the first two black elected officials in California.
Wow.
And he is interred out in West Los Angeles in the Veterans National Cemetery there. So every time I fly up and down the 405, and I'm sure quite a few people have nationwide heard of California, Los Angeles 405 freeway,
Yes.
I tell him hi. Because there's so many thousands of those crosses, that are along the freeway.
Yes.
That, I just wave and say hi, Uncle Oscar, how you doing? But he's interred, here in L.A., and his second wife is interred in Pasadena Cemetery.
I see. But now what happened to Allensworth? What happened to the town? Is it still black owned? Because I don't know that we have anything black owned in terms of our own township here in California anymore.
Well, it's slowly fading away because they haven't been keeping it up. Like, for example, one year they honored a philosopher, and I was able to get my small family together and have them all go up to the park. One way from LA up to the park is about 2.5 hour drive. And another thing, I go back to the railroad track. Ironically and weirdly, you can catch a train from Los Angeles, but you have to catch a bus and go into Bakersfield and then catch a local bus. You have to make arrangements to go from Bakersfield, like I previously said, is about a half an hour from the park and then into the park. And weirdly, they have a train that comes from San Francisco
Yes.
to the park. But we never could get them to have a direct train from LA to the park. But at least they do it from San Francisco. And at one time, there were, I believe, 15 or 20 chapters called the Friends of Allensworth scattered over the state. But it's hard, like we had a chapter here in LA, but it's hard to have people come to the meetings. And then the chapters that, the years that I was in there, we were very involved. But as our chapter got older, we couldn't get too many young people, interested in joining the chapter. So a lot of us have deceased or have health problems. So we had to end our chapter. And I laugh because our chapter closed maybe roughly about 5 years ago. And we would meet on Friday evenings once a month at the DWP office. I know a lot of people don't know what that is that are listening today, but that's a key landmark for a certain community. So anyway, ended up there were only two of us left. And one Friday I went to the meeting and ended up, and I was it. So I stayed about an hour, and then I told security, I wouldn't hold him up anymore. So that's how our chapter ended.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm running out of time with you, so I really want to have you share with us about some of your trials. When it came to employment, anything you can remember about, redlining and making it difficult to live in certain neighborhoods and making it difficult to own homes and things of that nature.
I'm sorry I was rambling about, my family. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you don't need to apologize. No, ma'am. We absolutely want to hear that part too. But I'm really very interested in sharing with my audience some of your trials to let them know here we are, so many years later, and we're still kind of challenged with the same things. And that is, absolutely what they want to know with respect to how to put the proposals together to give restitution to us here in California. The entire state is being considered for reparations. So could you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you had as a Black woman gaining employment here in California?
Okay. I'll start in Pasadena. Well, naturally, it was limited when I was a kid. So personally, I did housework, and it paid pretty good. So much per hour. But I did that when I started into teenage, and I would have these homes that I would go clean once a week. And one time, I saw an advertisement that a rich white lady who lived at one of the big hotels in Pasadena wanted a driver to take her to different places when she wanted to go out. So I applied, and I surprisingly got the job.
Oh,
because,
wow.
I just said, I'll take a chance. And I had naturally already learned how to drive. And so therefore, when I went for the interview, we talked one-on-one. And then the next thing I knew, she gave me the job. And I enjoyed it because I would take her. She was kind of a society lady. So I would take her to the different social affairs and to shopping. And, whatever she wanted to do and needed transportation. So that wasn't too bad. I didn't have a problem with that. I do remember my mom and I going to several places in Pasadena proper to rent apartments. And when we got there, you could kind of tell the feeling about,
Right.
And so anyway, they would tell us they would get in touch with us because they had to show the apartment to others, and we would never hear from them. And then once or twice we were told to our face that they didn't rent. In those days, we were known as colored, that they wouldn't rent to colored. And we didn't, we stayed on the the west part of Pasadena in, ironically, the Rose Bowl area, the famous Rose Bowl.
Wow.
Meaning we could, from our houses, we could walk down there in about 5 or 10 minutes. And then
Wow.
naturally, all the world will be swarming to Pasadena for New Year's Day. And speaking of that, reminds me, one of my sisters married, let me see, my sister's name was Doris Jones, her maiden name, and she met in school a gentleman named Ralph Wade, and they got married, and lo and behold, in the family line, very, very close, is Jackie Robinson and his family.
Whoa.
Jackie Robinson's mother and my brother-in-law's mother were sisters. So I did attend Jackie Robinson at the same time, John Muir High School. And I don't know where it is naturally, but I still have my yearbook that Jackie wrote this, nice greetings in. And then naturally, we would get together, the families would get together. So, I, through marriage in Jackie Robinson's, family.
Wow.
And also his brother Mac. And I don't know why, but it took them forever to recognize Jackie and Mac as being home men from Pasadena. But one of his sisters worked so hard to have recognition down toward the center part of Pasadena now, but it took it years. So I went over, I can't naturally remember the year, but I went over when they had the opening of honoring Jackie and Mac Robinson, Pasadena.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I didn't have too many problems in school as far as interracial. I mean, we was interracial school, but I mean, I had a lot of interracial, white friends, Asian friends, Hispanic friends. But I knew there was prejudice because I remember going to, they used to have, for movies, they would have what they call premieres, meaning when Hollywood was going to send out a movie to the world, they would have, they would show the showing first and then have the stars come to the theater in Pasadena. And I remember going to one of the premieres, and I can't remember who was being honored. It was Mickey Rooney or one of the stars of that day. But anyway, it was so crowded down in the foyer that naturally we were bumping into each other.
Yes.
And I remember bumping into a white girl. And she gave me, and I said, "Oh, pardon me." And she gave me a push. And she says, "Get away from me, nigger."
Oh, wow.
And naturally, my temper went right up to the top of my head. And I thought myself saying, well, at least I'm a nice brown color, and I don't have to lie in the sun to get this way.
That's right.
I couldn't help it. But I never had too much problems, but I took care of it when I needed to,
Absolutely. Well, you were sharing about having gone to school with me yesterday. You shared about applying for a job as an operator, and just basically how you had to put out a lot of applications at one point in your experience here because they weren't hiring us. Can you explain a little bit about that period of your life?
Oh, okay. It was Bell Telephone because at that time they have so many names nowadays, so but it was Bell. And it was in Pasadena. In the paper, they were advertising for telephone operators. So I said, oh, this sounds good. And I said it'd be steady. So I called in and I got all the information that I needed. And I can't recall all the questions I asked, but the very last question I asked before I hung up, I said, oh, by the way, do you hire colored? And then there was this long pause with the person to whom I was speaking. And she said, oh, are you colored? And I said, yes, I am. She said, well, I'm sorry, we don't hire colored. And again, my temper went to the top of my head, and I said, well, how can you tell the color of a person over the phone?
Right.
But needless to say, I still didn't get the job because I was colored.
Exactly. And that's what you were sharing, that this is what they often use to keep us out of gainful employment. It wasn't that you lacked experience or ability. It was simply because you were colored, as they used to call us, you know?
Oh, uh-huh.
So,
and I think I told you also, Angela, yesterday about working for LA County and
yes.
telling my immediate supervisor when she had an opening for a higher position, would she consider me because I was already there and knew the job? And that was what we called then with LA County. You had to take an exam, and it was a clerical exam. If you wanted to go to the next step in the clerical category, they had intermediate clerk. So I was a clerk, and I wanted to become an intermediate clerk to make more money. Took the exam, got on the list, and that's when I asked my supervisor, who was white, if she would consider me for the intermediate position when she got one. She said, oh, yes. So here I am, naturally, months are passing, and I'm waiting. And then I find out that new young lady had come in, and I found out she hired her as an intermediate, but didn't let me know.
Yes.
So I still stayed in the office as a clerk, but I took the next call for intermediate at another facility to, I had to leave to get my promotion, in other words, because I was colored. And I was a very good worker. I mean, whatever I did, I did it naturally my very best. And several supervisors, in my evaluation, they had to fill out evaluation forms every year, the performance of the employee, and I would, get outstanding. And so, I kept that rating up. And another thing, I remember one time I was very outspoken, and that would upset the directors of the unit or the building.
Yes.
And let me see, what do they call them? Districts, they call them districts. So anyway, he wanted me to clean up another intermediate clerk's desk because his work was getting behind. But the guy who was leaving his work was in the room, in the comfort room, playing top. So then my temper hit my the top of my head. I said, why don't you tell John to go clean up his own desk? And I said, because I always thought that my desk was clear every day. I finish all the work every day so I could start fresh the next day. But anyway, the director didn't like my attitude, so he switched me to another unit, which was supposed to have been the worst unit. And I ended up liking the unit. So anyway, one time I had to get on the elevator alone with him, and he thought he was punishing me. And I told him his name was Mr. Young. I said, oh, by the way, Mr. Young, I sure am glad you changed me. I said, I like where I'm working. And then he didn't appreciate, I guess he could detect my sarcasm. Anyway, I had to go see the whole director of the whole building or district. And he was a southern white man from Kentucky, and he had this role. And I was going to and from with him. And all of a sudden, my mother's maiden name was McKnight. And his name was McKnight. So all of a sudden, I was catching myself, oh, Mr. McKnight, you know what? I said, my mother's name is McKnight. Maybe you and I are relatives. And he turned red as a beet. So that's the way I got along with a lot of race stuff. Or the moment, and I just kind of made fun at them, but I was gigging at them at the same time,
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, that is just rich. So because you did not want to do the white boy's work who was off having fun and kind of flipping off his time, they decide to punish you for speaking up and calling it like it is.
Ironically, the guy was black that was playing cards.
Oh, he was a black guy.
Yeah, but he was downstairs playing with some other white guys that he knew.
Oh!
Yeah, I should have said that, the guy he wasn't still in was black. But anyway, he didn't go have him do his own cleaning up.
Right.
But, anyway, that's the way it turned out.
Wow. Well, this time together has been so rich. We're almost at an hour, okay? I promised you I would get you out in 30 minutes. But I so appreciate you sharing with the audience. They have truly delighted in you being here, and they are in total awe about your age and just how much you're in your right frame of mind. Family, this parishioner here would drive herself when, pre-COVID, would drive herself, you hear me, to 3 church services. To my understanding, our service was your third. Isn't that correct, Miss Barbara?
Thankfully, Dr. Dellums was one church I went to, the late Dr. O.C. Smith's church.
Yes.
City of Angels here in Los Angeles. It's no longer operating, but that's where I started. I would go to his service, thankfully, at 9 a.m. We had 2, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Then when I found out about Dr. Della Reese, that hers was at 11, I started, I'd leave City of Angels at 9 because we just hold church about an hour. And then I would have enough time to leave Dr. O'C's at 9, go to Dr. Della's at 11. And then when Dr. Della moved to where they last were in Inglewood, California, her time was at 1.
Yes.
And then with City of Angels closed, there was another, this is the Science of Mind Church in Leimert Park, California. LA 3rd,
Yes.
pastored by Dr. Ronnie Jones. He's retired now, but theirs was at 11, and so many of us from City of Angels, 9 o'clock service, were wandering around that they started a 9 o'clock service in Leimert. So
Wow.
my schedule was going to Leimert at 9, then branch of City of Angels started a new church, the Art of Living, and it was started by Dr. Ben Vereen. However, it's still born, but he's moved on. But church is still, well, they're doing virtual also. So
Now, when you let me stop you.
At 9.
Yes.
Art of Living at 11, and then I'd go to Dr. Dallas at 1.
Now,
For quite a few years.
Yes, I know. That's why I'm just so impressed. I want to back you up. You said Dr. Ben Vereen. Is that the actor Ben Vereen?
Yes, the one in the same.
Oh my God, I didn't know he had a church.
I don't know whether it's still, I never went to it. I understood he moved out on Washington somewhere. But he used to have a church, and I don't know the name of it because I never went. But
Okay.
at one time, he helped start, the second church I went to, but then something happened, and then he moved on and started another church.
Wow. Wow. That's just rich. Is there any parting words you want to say to the young people about how to get older without aging before I let you go?
The way I've handled it, and I don't know whether all of them, would be interested, but I love to travel.
Yes.
Any mode, by car, by bus, by airplane, by boat.
Yes.
Naturally, when I was younger, every opportunity I would get, I was out of the country. Fortunately, God bless my daughter, who loves to travel too, because her father didn't like to travel, but she and I would go. He would say, my daughter's name is Bijur.
Yes, I love her.
In case there's someone else, that's listening from the area. But anyway, so naturally she flew for, the first airline was Northwest. And then Northwest, years ago, blended in with Delta, so she's still flying. So the first few years, naturally, I was gone all the time. And I would go international because I told myself that God did create other lands and other people. And then I knew it, but I really discovered you don't know another country until you actually go there.
That's right.
Because a lot of times what's in a book isn't right.
That's right. You got to experience it.
And speaking of writing anything, I had a flashback one time. Dejure and I were in Hong Kong, and we were doing the sites. And at that time, I don't know whether they still have them because they were fading out then, what they called rickshaws.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of young people may not know what they are, but they're kind of little wagon on a couple of wheels, and men would run and pull the rickshaw.
That's right.
And we were there, and then we were going to, take this rickshaw ride. And the guys motioned for both of us to get in together. And then I told him, no, I'll go in another one. And I said, too heavy. with you and me together. And he said he was so insistent upon us riding together. And he got started and ran about a block. And then he said, ooh, Henry. I said, I told you so. But anyway, he did finish the ride with us. But I think about that so often because he was so insistent, you know.
Of course.
So, as I say, I've flown and I've ridden a rickshaw. And then I was down in, I think we were in Mombasa, I think it was in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And I even tried a balloon ride.
Wow. Look at you.
That's the way I travel these days, and I don't have to spend any money. I just turn my mind back and, you know, revision whatever place I've been to.
Well, I love it. So you would say to get older without aging, travel more, see the world and enjoy life, right?
Oh, yes, and do what you like because I haven't been in a while, Nancy, but I like the movies, I like concerts, and, you know, like going to the bowl. And I haven't been there in a while, you know, because of staying at home.
Right.
But this year, it was, you know, and one of her friends, we would meet out there. The friend lived in Pasadena, so she would take a bus to the bowl. And the year used to drive, but then the parking was so hectic. So we would go to, not Inglewood, but over by the airport, they had a bus stop there, and we would take that and, you know, go to the bowl and do the lunch dinner while you watch the concert. So
how wonderful. I need to explain to my audience what the bowl is. Family, we've got the Hollywood Bowl where you can see some of the hottest stars for like pennies on the dollar. The tickets are very inexpensive. And it's just action-packed lineup for the entire summer. I mean, I think one of my fondest concerts was Diana Ross, who I think she's in her, 80s by now? And she was out there getting it in, and then they did a whole fireworks show. I've seen Erykah Badu. I've seen, more recently, I took my daughter to see her, which is one of the young contemporary artists of my child's day. And it's just rich.
Pardon me, one of the last ones that I saw was Smokey Robinson, and he was really good.
Oh, I love that. Yes, family. So they bring in these great artists, these great musicians to play every summer at the Hollywood Bowl. And you get the tickets for very inexpensive. And it's just a wonderful time. So when Queen Barbara is talking about the bowl, that's what she's referring to. One of my audience members who's been chatting away, which I love, he says, do what you love and love what you do. And I think that is absolutely what Queen Barbara is advising us as young people. If you can tell in the lighthearted way in which she shared even about some of the things that she underwent in terms of racism, this has not hardened or embittered her in any way. And she's just beautiful inside and out. And this is something that we can borrow from in terms of her life as a great example. And, I'll be talking to you on your birthday, Barbara. I'm going to make sure my calendar is set properly to give me notice to make sure I extend a call. and sending some dinner your way, some of your favorite foods. I got to talk with your daughter and figure out what we're going to cook up this time. But I thank you so very much for this interview and for helping us. This is really going to help the young people, because a lot of the challenges you had getting work, it's come full circle to now our youth, no matter how much education they have, they are now challenged with getting work in the same way. So this is going to be rich when I share it with the Newsom's Reparations Task Force to help us to craft proposals for what the repair will be for our young people. And so just know that you've helped us to make history today. And we are so very grateful for your contribution to this lofty and necessary demand for what our children are long overdue. So I thank you so much. And I wanted to bid you a beautiful rest of your evening until we speak again on Thursday.
Okay, because another thing I would do when I would meet or, have to work with other races, just be nice to them. And lo and behold, next thing you know, you've got a friend.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, this, you know what? We have no... Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
There's so much negativity in the world, but I mean, you could just, if you see someone and you have a friend, just say hello and even start a conversation if you so desire, and then build from that.
Oh no, I can tell you.
Sometimes you make them melt down and get on your level, and next thing you know, they're with you.
Oh yes, ma'am, you're absolutely right. Trust me when I tell you, I have some beautiful friends who have migrated from other places. I just had dinner last night with a beautiful, it was a beautiful Black and brown experience to celebrate one of my biracial Black and brown, what I consider one of my spiritual daughters, one of Genesis' friends. And her father is Hispanic and her mother's Black. And we had a beautiful dinner. So I've got some awesome friends, but I'm speaking at large about the racial practices because we don't have any Blacks at the hiring tables anymore out here. They have gotten rid of us in upper management, where we're not there to guarantee jobs for our young people. Whether they're degreed or not, they're having a really hard time getting gainful employment. And when they do, a lot of these companies like to underpay them because they are Black. So some of the very things you were confronted with growing up and making a life for yourself is the same exact thing in 2021 that our young people are undergoing. And that's why me and my comrades are fighting for the reparations that we are owed in the trillions over multi-generations. We're fighting that fight because without it, our people are going to start perishing. It's gotten really dire with, our people being the largest number of unemployed, underemployed, and homeless here in the state of California. And so we've gone from 16% not so long ago. I know we used to be a much bigger percentage. I've got to get those numbers together. But I do know at one point in a not so far off past, we were at least at 16%, and now we're less than 5% because of the racist practices in hiring have driven us out of California. So you may not know it, or you may not know this, but we are some of the last few accomplished Black people standing here in Southern California in particular. In Northern California, it seems even worse. We used to be the majority of the homeowners in San Francisco, and now you'd be hard pressed to find any homeowners in San Francisco that are Black. They have pretty much gentrified us out of all of our communities. And it's been a real struggle for most of our people. And sadly, the mainstream media is not reporting on these issues that plague our people, not just here in California, but nationally. It's really hard on the majority of our people as a result of immigration being forced on us when we are on the bottom already economically as a result of immigration. So this is not like one-on-one where we take issue with our immigrant, friends. This is about a government that has been complicit in giving away our reparations to all the other groups while making sure they do nothing for us. So far, Joe Biden has been in office for 9 months. He's given trillions of dollars of our repair to all the other immigrants. He's given them protections, and all he's given us is a Juneteenth and hip hop holiday. So this is why we fight. This is why the task force was put together. And this is why I've been calling up my church family members. I have another church family whom I know that you know, Kay Russell. She'll be on this evening in about 45 minutes. I'll be taking her interview and sharing it with my comrades in the reparationist fight because they need to understand, like I said, that not much has changed. And in fact, I believe it's gotten far worse because the cost of living has gotten far worse. So when you're looking at our people specifically, national median income for American descendants of chattel slavery is $30,134. And the national median home price is $379,000. So there's no way that if you're earning $30,000, you'll ever be able to even afford to buy yourself a home for you and your family. So that's why I wanted your story, because all of these stories, my story, your story, my comrades in the movement story, these stories are going to shape what the restitution for having been legislated to the bottom of this country's capitalism as its anchor is going to look like. So thank you for being willing to have me record you for the history records. You're making history right now with your sharing with me about some of the things you've undergone. And just know that it's going to be used to help our people up off the bottom of, we're bottom cast now. We're not, I know that you don't know this, Queen Barbara, because, where we come from with our church family, we by and large are doing well. We're not wealthy, but we can do for ourselves. But far too many of our people cannot, unfortunately. It's really gotten bad out here, especially since COVID.
Yes, it does. You can kind of sense the change.
Yes, ma'am. And this is why I fight along with my comrades to make sure the government rights its wrong, because they are the ones who put out legislation or lack thereof that puts us, in last place in the.
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay, I don't know. It started buffering. I don't know why that happened. But anyway, yes, this is why we're in this fight, to make sure this country pays the debt that is owed to us, specifically for our ancestors having created wealth that all of them eat from but us. So thank you for helping us to make history today.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Been a pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll be in touch with you on Thursday on your birthday. And we love you so much. And I'll be talking to you soon. God bless.
And the same to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Goodbye, everybody, and have a good week.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, family. That was my church family. She will be 100 years old this Thursday. And I'm sorry that we had such a much smoother conversation yesterday. It was rich. And today it got a little long in the tooth. So forgive me, but she is entitled, given that she's almost 100. Thank you, Brian, for your contribution in the chat. I don't know if you saw me flagging it on the screen. Kelly Pryor, I thank you. Hi, Angela. I will watch the playback. I just got an alert that you are even live. I appreciate you and your well-spoken, vindicating laments regarding the mistreatment of our people, and I thank you. Brian says, I'm glad she could come on. Yes, family, I thank you guys. Listen, I do these as they come up. I create this show. I hate that ScrewTube is not giving you guys the links. I'm slowly but surely coming up with solutions, like you'll be able to text me, then I can text you when I'm going live and things of this nature. So I just thank you all for rolling with us, sister. I'll be back in about, 40 minutes with my next interview. 99 and looking fine. Isn't she beautiful? That black baby, that melanin popping, okay? She is my great example. And did you see how, although we got off topic a little bit, did you see how clear and how lucid she is? She wears no glasses. She doesn't have a walker. I mean, this is right up Mike Michelson's alley. Brian, if you want to share this with him. But this is a byproduct of the metaphysical principles we practice at my church that I'm going to be bringing you more of, so that you too can get older without aging. Okay. And that's what she is, my great example. I've got so many of these examples around me of, like I said, before COVID, we were her third church service that she drove herself to. Okay. She drove herself. They have not taken her license like they have to do all too many. So it's wonderful to have examples like this in our midst, family. There is a way to get older without getting old. You can't help getting older, but you can absolutely control how you age. And with that said, family, let me prepare for the next show. And I will see you back, hopefully, in the chat at 5:30 with my guest, Kay Russell. She's going to share. She's a little younger, so she already knows what, and she's okay with me guiding the conversation. These weren't supposed to go over 30 minutes, but I'm not going to cut the elders off. That would be rude. And no, I'm not doing that. So they can talk as long as they want. And if you want to check out, that's fine too. But they get to talk until they get tired. But I try to get my goal is 30 minutes because I've got to give this to my editors over at ETM Media Group. Shout out to you, Moya and Kim. I have to get this over to them to scale it down to 3 minutes for the task force. So they got the more impossible task, which is why I try my best to keep it to 30 minutes. But, child, I'm not cutting them off. If they want to talk, oh, well. Brian says he can't make the second show, but so glad to have tuned in here. Blessings as always. Thank you so much. Honey, you can check it in the archives. But I'm just going to start promoting it right now. And with that said, family, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOX and its allies are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until 5:30, in about 37 minutes, you make it a beautiful, God-inspired 37 minutes. Peace, family. I love you black and strong.